Hello guys.
Hello.
So today, presentation number 6, going to be talking about interspecies cooperation. So the cooperation in different behaviours between different species, very distinct and different species. But I'm going to be talking the whole presentation about one specific example because it's something that we can all look out for and it's really interesting. I have a video to show you in the next one, so if anyone who wants to see it, you might want to come a little bit closer. James, maybe you can sit your right side of the background. So going to be talking about a specific interaction between a grouper and an eel. So, great video shot by me. We have groupers here, and we have an eel in the back. And some of you might have actually seen groupers and eels close to each other before. Mint, actually, you pointed it out yesterday, and I said, remember. So you can see that they almost look like they're working together. And this is why I've titled the presentation Friend Not Foe. Because you might assume, or Mint said yesterday, she assumed that they were maybe fighting or competing for territory. But actually, the grouper and the eel have developed a really interesting way of cooperating in terms of hunting behaviour. So I'll come back to this video at some point, but we'll talk a little bit about the groupers and eels. So, when I talk about groupers, I'm talking about a few specific species in this case. A genus called Plectropomus, which is the spotted coral groupers, or coral cod, some people call them coral trout. You probably have them all over the world, but we've seen many of them here. They come in the orange with blue spots, sometimes they're sort of grey with blue spots, different species, but all these Plectropomus grouper species. They're diurnal predators, so that means they feed and hunt during the day. Eels are nocturnal predators, so during the day we see them inside their holes in their caves, sort of just chilling out, breathing, sometimes just even more tucked away. They're not hunting. We don't see them swimming about too often. But when we do, it's a very good chance that it's for a reason, this cooperation behaviour. So groupers and eels have learned to increase their chances of successfully hunting. I keep coming back to this evolved learned association. Something that is evolved over time and learned within the species for a behaviour that's very beneficial to the species. So this is in communication, contests, predatory behaviour, and also this interspecies cooperation. So, the way that this works is that you imagine you have your grouper that's hunting during the day and your eel that's asleep. Groupers will be looking for small things like damselfish, sometimes rabbitfish, smaller prey species that they can feed on. But sometimes these fish are just too agile, they can't get them. So groupers have been observed locating resting eels that are just chilling in their cave and moving up very close to them and sending them a very distinct communication signal that I went over yesterday. And this is head shaking. So the grouper will rapidly shake its head, tilt its body and shake its head 3 to 6 times per second, angled directly at the at the eel. The eel would then respond to this communication and quite instantly recognise this as like, okay, game on, and come out of its cave. The grouper would then obviously notice that the eel has been awoken and will basically lead the eel to where that prey it was looking for has now gone to hide, quite often within branching coral where the eel is a lot more slender and agile to move in between these cracks. And then they would hunt. But you might be thinking like, well, okay, so they've learned this behaviour to increase their chances of hunting, but we know fish don't, have a knife and fork. They're not cutting up their fish and there's not pieces. Fish and eels eat their prey whole. They engulf their prey and then it's gone. So there's no scraps for the other grouper or the eel should one get successful. Whereas in like the terrestrial realm, we see scavengers come and pick off carcasses that have already been hunted. So why would the groupers and eels do this if there's a chance that they're just showing a prey to another species and not getting lucky? Well, it's not quite as simple as feeding on or scavenging off of scraps. This behaviour increases both the eel and the grouper's chances of feeding successfully. So when the eel is going into the small branching coral, looking for the damselfish that the grouper has identified and led the eel to, the eel will try to hunt, will try to get this damselfish. And sometimes it will get lucky, and that means the eel is successful, it's got a feed. Other times, the damselfish will evade the eel, and because it's cornered, instinctively swim for open water. So it will dart outside of this branching coral, whatever habitat it's in. And at this point, there's going to be 8 or 9 groupers just sat around the outside, camouflaged, waiting, and will just engulf the prey. So sometimes it's the eel, sometimes it's the grouper, but studies have actually shown that this cooperation increases both the species' chances of success by 5 times. So a really, really big increase in their chances of successfully feeding, even if at some points it's not the grouper that is actually getting the feed. So this is a display of complementary hunting styles. So 2 different styles of hunting and adaptations for predation that have evolved to be complementary. And this involves communication, quite complex communication, memory, intelligence, and spatial awareness. And personally, I just think it's really, really interesting learning about the cognitions and intelligence and social ability of fish, because it's something that up until recently has just been, goldfish have 5-second memories, and fish don't feel pain, and that was the excuse that fishermen always used. And it's complete BS, it's not true. And there's a really interesting book, again, I mentioned the deep, but another book called What a Fish Knows. And it's a book that's a really great read, just talking about fish intelligence and cognition and their social abilities and spatial awareness and abilities to sort of learn these complex complementary behaviours. Although it seems like the eel and grouper are friends in this case, this cooperation is not altruistic, so it's not something that is being done out of like, okay, I'm going to help you out. This is something that has just been learned over a period of time through that, as I mentioned with communication, the ritualization of a signal. So it was something that was probably done quite accidentally at first, and it benefited both species, so it was done again. And then it became a habit, and then this behavior spread through the species, and actually different species, because like I said, there are more than one species of the coral grouper that are doing this. So it's not an altruistic behavior, but it's something that benefits both organisms. So just one of the big studies in 2006 that actually spotted this is an interspecific coordinating hunting that can emerge from a simple associative learning process. So a very simple one-off event then led to this behavior spreading, increasing the rewards for hunting within a variety of different coral species. I just want to say that this is not symbiosis. Although it seems like it could be a form of mutualistic symbiosis in that both are getting a benefit, it's actually not. And it's not for the same reason that I had a caveat when I was talking about the cleaner fish in the symbiosis lecture. Although there are parts of this behavior that actually, fit the definition, symbiosis is usually something that occurs quite automatically within species and has evolved to be like an autonomous behavior, such as the anemone fish in the anemone. This is instinct. With the cleaner fish and then this, both species have to be extremely tactile and coordinated and intelligent in order to execute this behavior. It's not something that's automatic, but it's something that is very, very planned and has a lot of tactics involved. This is a behaviour that we can see on loads of dives. I've witnessed it hundreds of times, but there are certain parts of it that I am only just starting to witness. Like really recently, about the week before this trip, for the first time I witnessed the grouper shaking its head in front of the eel and the eel responding. And the nerd in me, I was going crazy underwater. It was, probably such a boring thing for most people, but I was going nuts showing my intern, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" But it's something that we can see. Now that we've spoken about it, there's a few different cues that we can look for to identify this. And along this trip, I have definitely seen signs of this happening. I've seen groupers around an area with an eel nearby. I've seen an eel free swimming with a grouper near it. There's definitely elements for sure that this is going on. Usually, it's, from the side of Thailand that I am on, it's often with this blue spotted coral grouper, but here I've recognised it with the more orange coloured blue spotted grouper. And there are a few different variations, and they all display this crypsis when hunting, the change of colour, and they will go between this to this final state that very, very well matches, or background matches with the ground and the substrate that it's on. And this is one of the cues that we can look for to identify this behaviour. So the first key indicator that I'm going to talk about is exactly that, or one linked with that. Multiple groupers surrounding one coral. So we've seen it a lot with the emperor fish on this trip, where they're all displaying that camouflage and surrounding one coral where presumably that prey is. This isn't an interspecies behaviour with the eel. This is just their own hunting style. But with the groupers, this is something to look for. If we see many, many groupers sat facing the coral in a circle, changing colour in that typical camouflaged colour change, we might be then starting to go, okay, where's the eel? Because a lot of the times, I would say 70 to 80% of the time, I will find an eel nearby out hunting. The second is what I've just spoken about, this colour change. So it's a combination of these two, having many surrounding a coral and also displaying colour change. A great indicator. And the final indicator that we can look for is this head shaking communication. And it's really, really cool, and I hope you all get to see it, but, can't promise anything. It's something that I've only just seen for the first time recently. But if we take our coral reef, we have a little eel, very rubbish image, but down in its hole, and then we have our coral grouper. This communication involves the grouper with its head down, angled towards the receiver, which is the eel, and then giving those rapid head shakes, often leaning to one side, and it almost looks like the fish is in distress, some sort of an episode, I guess, of toxicity, but it's not. It's just its way of communicating, and it will rapidly shake its head really quickly, between 3 and 6 times per second, and do this a few times until the eel recognises, at which point the eel will just shoot out, and then the grouper will follow. And this is obviously signalling that an eel is nearby. So I'm just going to, bit messy, but go back to this video, and hopefully we can see a few of the examples of these indicators. So just before I start the video, we have 1, 2, and I think there's a third grouper displaying colour change, this camouflage, and then we have the eel. So at this point, the grouper has already identified the prey, but at some point during the video, you see that the grouper actually then does lead the eel. At this point, the eel's just searching around, but we can see they're surrounding this coral where there's presumably prey. The groupers are displaying colour change. The eel is searching, can't quite find it at the moment. And then here we can see the grouper is angling its head towards where the prey is to show the eel where to look.
So prey is probably not the lionfish, I guess.
No, probably not, yeah. And actually, I've seen this more often with, you guys have it here, I've seen it, but you have the giant morays and a few variations of the morays, but often this is seen with the white-eyed moray. That's slightly smaller and more slender, white eyes and almost like a mottled golden colour. That's one that is really often seen doing this behaviour, but I've definitely seen on this trip giant morays swimming out and a group are directing, waiting for it. It's important to say as well, this behaviour does not necessarily go the other way in terms of communication. The eel will never communicate to the grouper, "I've found food." It's only the grouper communicating to the eel. However, the grouper has learned that at some points, if they see an eel out in the open during the day, it is likely hunting. So sometimes other groupers will basically associate this behaviour and join the hunt, which is why we will then see many, many around. It's only one grouper that originally signals this communication, but others will join based on the fact that they've seen this communication or behaviour. So definitely some points to look out for on these dives. Like I said, I have seen them, and hopefully you guys get a chance to see it too. Bonus points for anyone who gets a video of this, and beers on me if you get a video of the head shaking, that's what I'll say, because I really want a video of that. So anyone who gets that, yeah, they're in my good books. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. Any questions?
If you liked this video, click here to see more like it. Please follow us on social media and feel free to like and share.